What's up, y'all? It's your girl Veronica, and we are back with another episode. Now, this one is coming by high demand because whenever I get on the phone with y'all or y'all in my class, you keep using the same phrase over and over and over, and it's imposter syndrome. You keep saying, I have imposter syndrome. I feel like if I actually get into a project management role, maybe I won't be ready. Learning is really theory, but the application can be different. And I'm feeling unsure of myself. I feel like an imposter. Y'all, I hate to hear that, but let's be honest. Everybody has imposter syndrome when they're trying to do something new. Okay, that's a natural feeling. But I've got something even better for you. I'm here to give you all the games so that you can run the play on your career transition into being a PM. And I'm going to give it to you from an imposter syndrome girlie's perspective. All right. So if you're looking at how to overcome the barrier of imposter syndrome in project management, stay tuned because we about to run it. All right. Now, as always, let's level set before we really get into things, okay? Having imposter syndrome is normal. Everybody feels anxious, everybody feels unsure whenever they're diving into something new. So I don't ever want you to look at yourself and say, man, I have imposter syndrome. That means I'm not ready. If I was really ready, I wouldn't be feeling like this. Boo, you're never gonna feel ready. Okay? It's like getting into a fight or having a baby. You can never really be fully prepared, but you just know when it comes down to it, you're going to take care of business. It's the same thing when you're riveting, aka pivoting your career. All right. So if you're having those feelings, don't discount them. Don't think to yourself, hey, I'm a fraud. I'm just not ready. All right. There's certain techniques that you can use that are going to help you be successful in the role. So I'm going to tell you guys what I did because I had a ton of imposter syndrome when I first started. I'm also going to tell you some lessons that I learned along the way. Now, let's take a trip down memory lane. All right. When I was a brand new project manager, I had just broke into six figures. I was feeling so good about myself. I was like, my life has changed. Your girl's ready to go. I'll never go back to who I used to be. And then I actually showed up to work and the imposter syndrome kicked in, y'all. I was so nervous. I was freaked out. But if I could do it all over again, I would have done things a little bit differently. So let's envision that you're a brand new PM in an organization and you're not sure what to do. The very first thing that you can do is ask what software systems they use for project management. Okay. Each organization is going to use different project management software, but there are some really popular ones across the project management space. You can actually get this information before you ever start the role. Okay. When you know you've got the offer, you've done your negotiation, you're feeling good about that, and you're good to go, you can ask, hey, can you make sure that you guys let me know what kind of project management software that you use? If you're going to be working in the tech space, you're likely going to be using agile methodology. In agile methodology environments, the most popular software system that you're going to be using is called Jira. Okay. If you are working in a less dynamically changing environment, you may be using waterfall or traditional methodologies. That means you're going to be using something a little bit more straightforward, like smart sheets. Maybe you're using Asana, or if you're going into an organization that's still living in the Stone Age, they might be using Microsoft Project or even just Excel. But if you can get this information in the very beginning, it is going to help you so much because you can make sure that you're really well versed in those systems before you actually show up to work on the very first day. All right. Whether it's Jira or Smartsheets or Trello or Monday.com, it actually isn't that difficult for you to go on YouTube and watch some videos, go and do some LinkedIn learnings, go on Udemy, go on Coursera. There's all types of information that will show you how to learn these systems, and that's going to help boost your confidence for when you show up on your first day of work. All right, so step number one, make sure that you ask them what systems they use so that you can learn them in advance and be ready to hit the ground running when you actually show up to work. Okay. Now, step number two is that you want to know whether or not your organization has what we call a PMO or a project management office. A project management office is actually an internal office within the organization that oversees all the projects that are run. You can also hear these referred to as an EPMO, also known as an enterprise project management office. The way that these internal offices work is that they streamline the way that processes are facilitated within projects, they streamline their frameworks, they typically have streamlined templates so that anytime project information gets reported out, it looks the same. Okay. The other thing that project management offices do is that they house all the historical data for previous projects that were run within the organization. Now, I want to stop right there. Okay. Did you hear what I just said? A project management office holds all the historical information for projects that have been previously run within the organization. That means that they are sitting on a treasure trove of free game. All right. So you want to ask if the organization has a PMO. If the org does have a PMO, that's where you're going to go and get all the inside scoop about how they run projects. And you can literally go to them and ask for historical data. You can say, hey, do you mind providing me with some information about previous projects that were run within the organization that will be similar to the projects that I'll be running? This is not a red flag in any way. This isn't going to make them think, oh, this person must be an imposter. No, it's going to trigger them like, oh, this person actually cares about simulating what we have seen that's been successful in the past within this organization. Okay. They want to mimic that. That's a good thing. That shows that you're doing your due diligence and you want to be integrated into the way of working within that organization. Okay. So you want to leverage that information as much as possible. And when you're asking for this historical data, it can look like a few different things. You can ask for project plans, you can ask for process flows, you can ask for management plans, you can even ask for lessons learned. Now, that's going to be my personal favorite because a lessons learned literally states all the issues that they had while they were running the project and the different adjustments that they made to improve the project's performance. Okay. This is another one of those situations where you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can learn from somebody else's information for how you're going to move forward. You're also going to get an idea about how they streamline their project work. Okay. Aesthetically, how does it look? When they're doing report outs, what type of information do they provide to their sponsors? How often were they doing report outs, right? It's going to give you all the game about how things work within the org regarding project management. So you want to know if they have a PMO because there's so much information that you can leverage from that. Now, you may be wondering, okay, that's great if they have a project management office, but what do I do if they don't have one? That's okay. That's okay. The very first thing that you need to ask is, hey, where do you guys store the historical data for previous projects that have been run? Organizations are not in the business of throwing that information away. They do recycle it, reuse it, and leverage it. You just need to find out who has it and where it's housed. It's probably in some type of shared knowledge repository like SharePoint or like the cloud or like an X drive or a Z drive, okay? You just need to get direction on where it is so that you can, again, go do your research, do your due diligence, and try to find out more about how things have historically operated. Now, the only difference between having a PMO and not having one is that when you have a PMO, things are streamlined. When you don't have a PMO, it can be a little bit like the Wild West. That means everybody's presenting things differently, okay? Aesthetically, things don't look the same. The way that people are running their projects is going to be based on how they run things, okay? It's very individual. It's not based on a group, but you still want to get a look at what's been historically successful. The next thing that I would do in these types of situations is that I would go and talk to other project managers. You want to connect with other people who have been in the organization running projects because they're going to be able to give you the inside scoop about how things actually operate within that organization. You have to keep in mind that because project management spans all these different industries, each organization does project management differently. Some of them are going to be very detail oriented. They're going to follow the methodologies and the frameworks very concisely. And some of them are going to be a hot mess. But either way, you need to know what it is you're getting yourself into. And the best sources of information for that type of thing are other project managers. Okay. Being a PM is like being part of a club. We lean on each other. We want to ask each other information. Okay. We want to give each other as much game as possible because historically we're individual contributors, right? You may be leading a team, but that team doesn't technically report to you. Those are borrowed resources. So it's a little bit different from a functional manager's experience. It's a very unique role. So you want to lean on the other PMs within the organization to really kind of help you get the inside scoop on how things typically flow within the role. All right. Now, last but not least, the next thing I would do as a PM who's new in an organization and has some imposter syndrome is I would get to know people. You have to keep in mind that 90% of what you do is communicate. All right. When you're a project manager, you're in the people business, whether you want to admit it or not. You're going to be engaging with your resources. You're going to be engaging with functional managers, with stakeholders, with vendors, with sponsors, and you're going to be kind of learning a lot about the different ways that people communicate. So when you're having these conversations with the other PMs in the organization, that's a good opportunity for you to ask them, hey, can you give me an idea about the stakeholders within the organization for the projects that you've worked on in the past? Is there anybody I should keep an eye out for? Is there anything that I need to know in advance that will help me be successful? Ask them about how they started in the organization and what their experience was. You can even ask them, hey, if you could go back and tell your new project management self something to give them a heads up in this role, what would that look like? Okay. The currency of life is relationships. So you should really leverage the opportunity to build relationships early on because it's only going to help you be more successful in your role. Now, as you can see, the whole purpose of this exercise is to gather information for yourself. Okay. This episode is about imposter syndrome. The only way for you to feel like less of an imposter is for you to inform yourself, is for you to build your skill set, is for you to reaffirm the fact that you do belong there and you're capable of being successful. The more that you see how projects have been run historically, and the more that you engage with other people who are project managers, you're going to realize that all of these things that are required of you are not outside of your capabilities. They're likely part of your natural skill set or things that you've done historically in your previous experience, but maybe they're just named different things, right? Because with project management, a lot of what we do is based on the language, is based on the verbiage, okay? But the actual work is similar to things that you've done in the past. So you need to just go through this process of validating information, verifying information, gathering information, right? And slowly adjusting to your new life as a project manager. All right. Now, the last thing I want to say before we wrap it up is do not be afraid to ask questions. A lot of the time, we feel like if we're new in an organization, we should already know all the right things to do. We should know all the right things to say. Honey, that's asinine. Why would you know everything before you even start the job? Each company has a different culture. Each organization has a different way of working. Your goal is to assimilate to that, is to adjust to your new surroundings. And the best way that you can do that is feel free to ask questions. If you're nervous about that, tell people in advance, hey, I'm the type of person who, when I get into a new job, I want to make sure that I'm really clear on all the requirements. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. People understand that and they respect it, especially your superiors. Okay. So that could be your sponsors or even some key stakeholders. But never feel like you can't be inquisitive because you're expected to know everything. You're not expected to know, okay? You're gonna get some training, you're gonna get some guidance, and then you're just gonna continue to be open to learning and be adaptable from there. Now, for all of my imposter syndrome girlies and boys out there, I hope that that information helps. If I was starting over as a new PM, those are the exact steps that I would follow. You just want to leverage this information as much as possible because all I can do is give you the game and it's up to you to run the play. You already know how we do things, right? In the meantime, in between time, I hope you guys like, comment, subscribe, give us some info, let us know what else you want to see on the channel. And of course, we'll give you guys as many gems as we can. All right? We'll see you next time.